Selamat sore, Ibu Bapak sekalian. Sore Pak Ardif. Oh, our guest is already here. Good afternoon, Dr. Yamamoto.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay. So how many people will join?
Usually in Zoom around more than 200.
Oh,
And we will also use the YouTube, maybe around 100%. Well, totally, in
I
average, about
see.
300%.
And also today, person from KEPCO.
Yeah. How are
안녕하세요.
you, Mr. Lee?
Hello.
Hello.
But you are in Jakarta, isn't it?
Yes, I'm in Jakarta.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
So it means that because your office is Southeast Asia office, the Jakarta office, the only one in Southeast Asia in ASEAN countries, or do you have any?
Our office is covering ASEAN area, including other countries, and we have office in Jakarta and Vietnam.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
But your business is not only nuclear, is it? You coal.
Right. Yeah. Not only the nuclear. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So how is Japan right now, Dr. Yamamoto?
Pretty busy.
Yeah.
We are discussing that regarding a beyond 60 years operation. So
really?
now the Diet cabinet is discussing many opposition or something, argument.
So how many nuclear power plant in Fukui prefectures in operation now at present?
Yeah, currently, I'll explain later, but the 10 nuclear power plant is currently operating. And we have total 15. 15, but 5 nuclear power plant has decided to decommissioning.
Okay. Yeah, decommissioning, it means the BWR types reactor.
Yeah, as you know, the Fukushima, there is a 10 nuclear power plant in Fukushima. So all the power plant is being in decommissioning phase, even they are young.
Yeah. So, Mr. Lee, do you have a plan to doing business on nuclear energy in Indonesia?
I would like to help if there is an opportunity. Seriously, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we have colleagues here from several organizations. Pak Hardif Situmeang, he is previously the same organization with me in National Research Council, isn't it, Pak Hardif? Good afternoon, Pak Hardif. And we have also from the Indonesian Nuclear Society, Pak Utama Kayo.
Selamat sore, Prof. Jarod. Selamat sore, Prof. Hardif. Pak Hardif Situmeang nih guru saya nih, Pak Jarod, di DRN.
He's also he was the
Pak
member.
Hardif, apa kabar? Suaranya masih mute, Pak. Pak Hardif. Pak Hardif masih mute.
Tapi di situnya sudah nggak mute sih.
Iya, di sini enggak.
Ya.
Saya tiap hari lewat depan rumah beliau ini, Pak. Kalau mau pergi, mau pulang. Rumahnya kan di Senayan, Pak. Jadi tiap hari depan rumahnya lewat saya.
Wih, ini DKI asli. Kalau saya kan DKI coret itu.
Ya.
Yeah. Dr. Yamamoto, let me introduce my boss in my home, Dr. Genirina Sunarya.
Nice to meet you, Dr. Yamamoto.
Nice to meet you.
Maybe Mr. Lee, you know as well.
Yeah. Ya, selamat sore Ibu Jenny.
Selamat sore. Thank you so much, Mr. Lee.
Thank you for inviting us. Yeah, it's our honor.
Bu Jenny apa kabar?
Baik Pak Utama sehat selalu ya. Luar
Alhamdulillah.
biasa. Jadi
Udah,
panutan
apalagi
kami.
kalau udah ketemu Pak Jarod, ketemu Bu Jenny, aman deh itu.
Aman.
Pak Ketua belum ya? Pak Ketua kita, Pak.
Our chairman still not coming.
Good afternoon, Mr. Harif Situmeyang.
Oh, Pak Arif.
Good afternoon, Harif Situmeyang, Mr. You are the one of the consultant for the technical expert as the power system engineering.
Oh,
I was a student from the ITS.
oh.
Yeah,
Pak Arif still have
Situmeyang.
problem with the
Because
microphone.
of the technical expert from the PLN, power system engineering. Same as Mr. Jiteng Marsudi. Yeah.
Oh, the late Dr. Jiteng Marsudi.
Nice
Pak
to
Arif,
meet you, Mr. Harif Situmeyang ya.
Pak Arif ini di mana?
Saya ada punya badan sertifikasi Pak Jarod
Oh,
dari Eropa gitu ya.
oke.
Jadi saya harus update terus informasi dari Prof Jarod ya terkait dengan masalah ya masalah inilah mengenai batan gitu. Karena kadang-kadang kami juga mengaudit beberapa perusahaan-perusahaan terkait dengan masalah energy saving. Kira-kira gitu Prof Jarod.
Iya.
Terima kasih banyak.
Terima sama-sama. Batan is no longer exist in Indonesia, so you have to deal with the BRIN, I think.
Prof Jarod, izin
Ya.
Prof Jarod.
Monggo.
Mau bertanya ke teman-teman ini sudah 41. Adakah di antara teman-teman yang sudah terbiasa berdialog di forum ASEAN 10 negara? Karena minggu yang lalu kami dialog kan di Jakarta tentang teknologi. Pertengahan bulan Maret ini di Kamboja. Ada nggak teman-teman yang berminat ikut berdialog tentang teknologi transfer sesama negara ASEAN?
Di sini terutama dari BRIN dan Bapeten itu sering komunikasi secara internasional. Ini kan ada bos saya ini Pak Saiful Bahri. Ada teman-teman yang lain juga. Banyak Pak.
Ya, kalau ada yang berminat mau ikut ke Kamboja, monggo.
Oh, visanya bebas lagi ya?
Bebas Pak, bebas.
Oh.
Saya bisa dikontak melalui Prof Jarod saja.
Siap. Ya.
Siap Pak Utama Kaju, siap.
Siap, terima kasih.
Oh kan.
Mohon maaf baru nyampe rumah.
Pak Ketua ya?
Beliau ini
Pak Puji.
Kepala Pusat Riset Teknologi Daur Bahan Bakar Nuklir dan Limbah Radioaktif.
Oh Pak Saiful.
Dr.
Saiful
Saiful
ya?
Bahri is
Pak Saiful Bahri ya?
Ya,
Ya,
the
Pak.
director of.
Wajahnya nggak kelihatan Pak Saiful?
Kelihatan Pak, ini Pak.
Ketutup apa?
Tutup Nah, baru kelihatan Pak Saiful.
Oh, siap.
Ini Pak.
Sehat Pak? Sehat Pak?
Sehat, alhamdulillah, Pak.
Tadi barusan muncul wajah Pak Ketua sekilas, hilang lagi.
Muncul. Pak Susilo. Oh, hilang.
Ini tempat saya ini hujan mulu, jadi connection-nya kadang-kadang ngawur ini.
Enggak apa-apa Pak, ini sama semuanya Pak.
Hujan juga tempat Bapak ya?
Ya.
Wih, kacau deh.
Mr. Lee, can you hear? Pak Jarod bisa dengar suara
Oh
saya?
yeah, I can hear you right now.
Bagus Pak Sutimeyang, bagus.
Maybe Mr. Lee, you know Mr. Hayan Lee from Cape Coast Jakarta office?
Sorry, who? Mr.
Hayan Lee.
Hayan Lee? HIMNI, yeah, I know him, yeah. Now he's working in Korea.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So long time ago, I was executive director of the ASEAN Center for Energy.
Really? Yeah.
Visited Busan, and also
Yeah.
Busan, yeah. Nuclear power in
In
Korea,
Busan, maybe near Busan, yeah.
and also visited the nuclear power producer. What is the name?
KHNP, you mean?
Yeah.
A nuclear fuel producer?
Yeah.
KNF, yeah, Korean nuclear fuel. KEPCO nuclear fuel, yeah.
Jam 4 Pak Jarod.
Okay, let's start the webinar. I would like to mute all of the participants. Saya akan memute seluruh peserta kecuali yang akan berbicara.
Okay.
Ya, makasih. Good day, good afternoon, and good evening. Maybe some of you participant from, sometimes the Indonesian participant from Europe or from other continents also join this webinar. Maybe good morning. Today we would like to invite our special guest from Korea, from South Korea, and from Japan, Mr. Seoyoung Lee and Dr. Yamamoto. But Mr. Lee and Dr. Yamamoto, I would like to say first in Bahasa Indonesia, then we would like to use the English during the webinar. Selamat sore Bapak Ibu sekalian, hari ini kita akan mengadakan suatu webinar. Seperti biasa kita mengadakan diskusi banyak hal dan kita sudah melakukan webinar ke-8 untuk tahun 2023. Dan kita akan mendengarkan berita menarik dari Jepang terkait pasca Fukushima, ternyata ada perubahan public perception atau persepsi masyarakat terhadap nuklir yang cenderung positif. Ini berita bagus. Dan tentu saja kita akan mendengar berita dari Korea Selatan. Korea Selatan ini negara yang sangat aktif dalam hal teknologi nuklir, energi nuklir. Bahkan banyak vendors itu memakai perusahaan-perusahaan Korea untuk membangun PLTN-nya. Jadi misalnya dari Denmark beberapa waktu yang lalu kita mengundang tamu dari Seaborg misalnya, mereka kerjasama dengan Korea untuk membangun galangannya atau membangun PLTN-nya, atau mungkin Torkon Indonesia, mereka juga kerjasama dengan Korea Selatan dan beberapa perusahaan atau vendor dari Amerika Serikat. Ini juga menarik. Dari dua negara ini, Jepang bagaimana pasca Fukushima setelah 11-12 tahun, kemudian bagaimana perkembangan Korea Selatan. Tidak hanya membahas nuklir saja, karena KEPCO itu adalah electric utility company yang terbesar di Korea Selatan. Mungkin juga akan membahas apa itu green energy, bagaimana visi dan misinya, dan bagaimana aktivitasnya. Tapi sebelum itu kami akan mengundang kepada Pak Susilo Widodo. Well, first I would like to ask our chairman, Indonesian Nuclear Society chairman, Professor Dr. Susilo Widodo, to give the opening speech. Please, Pak Susilo. Oh, sorry. I would like to, yes. Please, unmute yourself.
Baik, terima kasih. Thank you, Pak Jarod. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat sore.
Waalaikumsalam.
Salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Salam sehat dari Pasar Jumat. To Dr. Yamamoto and Dr. Seoyoung Lee from KEPCO, I would like to say welcome to all of you, to our community, to our forum, in one of activity of Indonesian Nuclear Society. let me speak in Indonesia. Bapak Ibu sekalian, pertama-tama tidak lupa senantiasa kita panjatkan puji syukur kehadirat Tuhan Yang Maha Esa, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, yang atas karuna limpahan nikmatnya kita semua bisa bertemu kembali di dalam forum acara mingguan Himpunan Masyarakat Nuklir Indonesia yang untuk kesekian kalinya pada Kamis sore ini. Dan sore ini sebagaimana disampaikan oleh Prof. Jarod dan sudah jelas disampaikan oleh Prof. Jarod di pembukaan tadi bahwa kita akan kehadiran tamu yang sangat penting untuk mendapatkan informasi yang up to date dari beliau-beliau para narasumber dari Jepang dan Korea. Saya kira sebenarnya bukan sekali ini pihak Jepang dan Korea itu sudah bergaul dengan kita. Kita sudah sekian lama bekerja sama melakukan kegiatan ketenagakerjaan dengan Jepang dan kemudian juga dengan Korea sudah sejak lama gitu. Mungkin tahun 80-an atau tahun 90-an, dan memang mengalami pasang surut sebagaimana kondisi situasi ketenaga nukliran di Jepang dan Korea itu sendiri. Namun demikian, dalam rangka seperti yang disampaikan Prof. Jarod dalam flyernya bahwa menyongsong dengan net zero emission, saya kira hubungan-hubungan kita dengan pihak manapun dan juga tentu saja dengan pihak Korea, Jepang yang memang secara teknologi sudah sangat maju, itu mungkin sangat penting bagi kita. Dan kali ini kita mendapatkan kesempatan untuk mendapatkan informasi. Saya kira baik itu informasi teknis maupun kondisi, terutama kondisi public acceptance di Jepang maupun Korea maupun global, tentu saja saya kira, karena saya kira pihak KEPCO sangat menguasai apa itu kondisi aspek global terhadap nuklir energi ini. Mungkin akan kita dapatkan info-info mutakhir melalui forum sore ini gitu. Saya tidak memperpanjang waktu, Pak Jarod. Segera kami serahkan ke Pak Jarod untuk segera melanjutkan. Once again, I would like to express my sincere thanks to all of distinguished speaker in this evening, Dr. Yamamoto and Dr. Lee. Okay, thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. Terima kasih Pak Susilo. Profesor Dr. Susilo Widodo, he was also graduated just like me from Japanese University. He was graduated his master and PhD from Kyushu Daigaku.
Korea.
His specialty is about the radiation safety, I think. And he was already last year in December inaugurated as the research professor. Well, I would like to share the video clip, short video clip about to invite everyone in Indonesia to join our nuclear society. Okay, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are entering the main agenda on this webinar. We would like to hear the two speakers about the progress, the status about the nuclear energy, or even in general the energy correlated with, for some time, this is very popular at the moment, about net zero emission, about green and clean energy, about the public acceptance of nuclear energy. And we have two speakers again, the distinguished speakers. I would like to make a series according to the alphabetical, from the Japanese, then after that the South Koreans, and the webinars will last until 6 p.m. Jakarta time, so maybe around 2 hours. So I would like to give the times for each speakers about 30 to 45 minutes. And after that, we have a discussion. So for the audience that want to ask or to give comments to the speakers, you can raise your hand, you can ask directly later on during the discussion time, or maybe you can text through the, write down through the chat room. You can use the English language or using the Bahasa Indonesia, and I would like to translate it to our speakers. If you have any question, please don't hesitate to ask anything you want to ask. And first, I would like to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Akihiro Yamamoto. He is, well, he's very impressive history. He works for the Nuclear Safety Measure Division, Fukui Prefectural Government. His job as the Deputy Division Manager. He was graduated from the University of Tokyo. His PhD with the thesis is very interesting. A study on enhancing the effectiveness of safety management of nuclear power plants. And the very interesting also, he has a good, well, very intensive communication with, including Indonesians, because he is also the trainer or lecturer at the training course on infrastructure development for NPP introductions. I think the trainee, including from Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, Poland, and other countries, and he has many experience, 25 years in nuclear field. So I think it is very interesting if we can hear the change of the attitude of Japanese public on the nuclear energy program recently. Previously, well, negative, dominantly there are some anti-nuclear, but recently I hear there are some good news on the public acceptance. Please, Dr. Yamamoto.
Okay, thank you for kind introduction. So on behalf of Fukui Prefectural Governor, thank you for taking opportunity to make a presentation in such a great people. So I'd like to share my presentation. And as you mentioned that I would like, my presentation have 60 slides, but I skip some slides and maybe finish within the 30 to 40 minutes. And the question is welcome. So at first, I'd like to share my presentation here. Can you see my slide?
Yeah, still black, but we are waiting. Yes, okay. Yeah, okay, yeah, okay. It's okay. Yeah,
yeah.
Please.
As you mentioned that I had a chance to visit Indonesia in 2019, so I visited Pontianak, one of the candidate for the siting nuclear power plant. So now I'm working at the Fukui Prefecture government, and the size of Fukui Prefecture is around 4,000 kilometers square, and the population is around 0.8 million. So compared to the Kalimantan Bara, we are very small region, living in a small region. So today my content is divided into 7 parts. First, nuclear power plants in Japan, and public survey, and local government approach, and Fukushima Daiichi accident. And the main topic is the stakeholder involvement, how we gain the public understanding of nuclear power plant. And maybe I can skip the last part, radiation monitoring. So first part, this is information by the IAEA that currently is more than 400 reactors are operating 32 countries by the end of 2021. And 20-30% of reactors are beyond 40 years operation. So all the country, especially the US, Korea, or France, and other countries are very discussing how long the plant can continue to operate in the future. And this is also information by IAEA that nuclear power capacity in the last year. Surprisingly, China is now heading the number 3 position, but maybe next year China will be number 2 position. And under construction in 2020-2021, actually China has a lot of reactor is planning to build. And Japan, we have some plan, but I talk it later. We have some difficulty to build a new reactors in Japan. And this was a question the last time when I visited Indonesia, that how Japan learned about the nuclear power plant operation. Because 50 years ago, we don't have much of knowledge about the plant operation. Actually, we had some nuclear engineer. We learned the nuclear engineering, but we didn't have much knowledge about the plant operation. So the initial phase, the KEPCO is Japan also have a KEPCO. KEPCO is a Kansai Electric Power Company. The 12 staff went to Westinghouse, US, to learn the operating skills 1 year. After they coming back to Japan, they teach it to other 100 staff members. And it was a very tough moment that every day they trained. First, they create Japanese manuals and convey to the staff. So, and next year, 1970, the first PW reactor in Japan connect to the grid. So this kind of training is very useful, and the knowledge was transferred into the other electric power company after that. So situation in Japan, before Fukushima accident, 57 nuclear power plants were operating and constructing. But after Fukushima Daiichi accident, the 21 nuclear NPPs the company decided to be decommissioning, because the reason is mainly the economical reason. I mean, it takes a lot of cost to meet the condition of the new regulatory standard. So currently the candidate is 36 reactors, but even 12 years passed after Fukushima accident, only 10 reactors resume operation. So other plants are still under the review by regulatory authority. And before Fukushima accident, the contribution by nuclear power plant is around 20 to 30%. The capacity is 20 to 30%. But after that, all the nuclear power plants shut down. And then some nuclear power plant resume operation. But the contribution by nuclear power is only 4% now. So on the other hand, we highly much depending on the natural gas or other fossil fuels. So, and the cost is highly increased after the Russian invasion to Ukraine. So the Prime Minister Kishida said that the nuclear power plant were also put forward. He gave a strong message to the people the last year. And development and construction of next advanced reactors. Prime Minister remarked to nuclear power plant to step forward. And this is a kind of the ideal combination of energy resources. It should be, base load should be stable energy, such as nuclear or coal or other hydrogen or like that. And natural gases as a part. And solar power, wind power, it depends on the weather condition. So it's some kind of additional to cope with a peaking power source. So in Japan, by 2030, we are aiming to base load power sources by 20%. But as I mentioned, that still only 10 nuclear power plants are regime operation. We face some dilemma. So, and this is a quite recent news that how long the nuclear power plant can continue to operate. So before Fukushima accident, there was no limitation. The plant can continue to operate, no limitation. And after 30 years operation, the safety evaluation of aging management were conducted every 10 years. So, but assuming 60 years of operation before Fukushima accident, and after Fukushima accident, new regulatory standards were set up, and also the up to 60 years operation can conduct it. However, this year, actually last month, some discussion the Diet Cabinet is ongoing, the revision of the regulatory system. This is quite complicated now. And one of the commissioner of NRA against installing a new framework. What meaning of new framework is we are taking into account the kind of idea that the lost time. Maybe you know the football game. The additional time is taken into account the new regulatory schemes. For example, now Takahama Unit 1 is still sleeping. I mean, it will be regime operation in this June or July. But 12 years, Takahama is in a outage. So this 12 years is related to additional time. So Takahama Unit 1 can be continued to operate until 60 years plus 12 years. But no new guide is not set up. So now NRA is discussing how we incorporate the new aging management idea for such as new things. So we still don't have a new guideline at the moment. So regarding advanced reactors, government cabinet decision, actually this is also last month that what the point is, it is quite difficult to build a new reactor on the new site. I mean, the only possibility in Japan to siting a new reactor is existing site, such as our prefecture or other prefecture who siting a nuclear power plant. Because of the getting public understanding of a new place is quite difficult. So regarding SMR, this is the basic concept of new nuclear policy presented by Atomic Energy Commission last month. But SMR, some benefits but SMR is a very small reactor. So some region is fit to installing such a plant, but in Japan, we are not suitable. Only small reactor, one reactor. So we need a much bigger one. But anyway, even SMR has some issue regarding disposal of radioactive waste and the nuclear fuel cycle. And currently, public mind in Japan is people feel even existing plant doesn't have any idea for where is the final disposal places. So the residents asking to the Japanese government and electric power company to need to tackle to the back end issue of spent fuel or high-level radioactive waste with all-out effort. So this is a public survey, how the public mind changes after Fukushima accident. The first part, the public survey by local newspaper here in Fukui Prefecture. So this is a survey right after the Fukushima accident, only 4 months after the accident. So question is, did the accident change your view of nuclear safety? And 86% yes, say yes, because became anxious. And what were your thoughts after the accident? Is two things. One is an unreliable regulatory regime and lack of safety awareness among power companies. And question 3 is, what do you want from national government, local government? And many people are very interested in the dissemination of evacuation plans because they face the Fukushima people evacuated from the Fukushima Prefecture. And question 4 is, what do you think about the restarting nuclear power plant? This is quite unique in our prefecture because we have been with NPPs for more than 50 years. So people have some feeling that even Fukushima Daiichi accident happened, but restart regime operation of nuclear power plant, 45% agree to once safety measures have been confirmed, even 4 months after the Fukushima accident. So this is a public survey as a newspaper done in January this year. So question is, what will be the main power source in next 10 years? In 10 years, actually, many people selected renewable energy and hydrogen, ammonia, and nuclear is situated in the 4th stage. But it's divided into the age. Under the age of 50, 42% are supporting nuclear. And also age of 30 to 40 years old, 49%. Because main reason is maybe, I guess, the electricity price highly increased in past 1 year. And actually this spring, the price also be increased. And this is other public survey that do you agree or disagree with restarting a nuclear power plant in past 12 years, almost 10 years. So in the beginning, after the Fukushima Daiichi accident, the rate of opposing is higher than the rate of agree. But this year, changes. Agree outnumbered disagree for the first time in 2020, this year. And main reason is burden on life due to the increased electricity bills. And say yes is more than 81%. So this is as a survey. How should Japan use nuclear power generation in the future? So 7 or 8 years ago, the supportive level is around less than 60, should be abolished and should be increased. Rate is this green line, around 10 to 15%. But its classification by age group is quite interesting that under 24, more than 20 people under 24 years old are support to the nuclear power plant. So this means that it can be confirmed that nuclear is recognized as a technology which can but be used for the while. The young people have expectation for nuclear, while the elderly people have negative opinion. So this is a survey by a high school student in Fukui Prefecture to the more than 2,000 students in Fukui Prefecture and also Tokyo. How do you learn? Select the item learned at school. So first top 3 is actually Fukushima Daiichi nuclear accident and feature of nuclear power plant and disadvantage or advantage of nuclear power plant. They learned these items at the school. And what trigger you become to know nuclear? Their chance to learn is at the school or news. And actually they faced the Great East Japan earthquake, which was occurred 2012. This is quite interesting that the newspaper only 0.3%. It means young people doesn't read the newspaper now, and they are more interested in the internet or SNS. So this is a local government approach in Fukui Prefecture. Yeah, this shows a Google map showing the middle part of Japan. The right top side, this is the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant site and Daini nuclear pump site and Tokai Daiichi nuclear power plant. And Tokai Daiichi nuclear power plant was survived even tsunami came because 3 days before the earthquake, they completed the seawall for seawater pump partly, so they could survive. So if the earthquake or tsunami came 1 week before the accident, I think Tokai Daini were facing serious condition. And Fukui Prefecture located the middle part of Japan, but as you see, is a very dark area. because of very rural area. Maybe the number of monkeys are more than the people. This is just joking. But our nuclear power plant, 15 nuclear power plant located in Fukui Prefecture, and all the electricity was sent to the Kansai area, Osaka, Kyoto. 20 million people are living there. So we are contributing economy and social activity in the diversity area. And location of nuclear power plant in Fukui. Why is 15 nuclear power plant located in Fukui? Because of the condition is good. First is we have strong bedrock and cooling water. It means our prefecture is facing the Sea of Japan, Tonhei, and low population areas. And our prefecture, we have more than 10,000 people, including NRA office or utility office and our local government and subcontractor. So more than 10,000 people working in Fukui, but less than the number of deers. And this is a bird view on Tsuruga Peninsula. About 66,000 residents are living in Tsuruga city, and 30 minutes drive, you can reach a Tsuruga nuclear power plant site. And now we are inviting a new research reactor supported by MEXT, maybe in next 10 years. And there are some plants, Tsuruga nuclear power plant unit 3 and 4, but postponed due to some issues raised. This red violet line is called active fault. So only the 600 kilometers away from this active fault. So assessment is still ongoing. And circumstance in regional area. So why we citing so many reactors? Because of the regional people eager to have an infrastructure. Mainly they want to have a road. As I mentioned, in Fukui, we have a very heavy snow in the winter season, and before plant siting, there was no good road around here, and people have to use a ship from this place, this region, to the Tsuruga city. It takes almost half a day. So people are eager to have an infrastructure, especially constructing a road. And also there was some support from the electric power company, compensation money for fishery right holder, or buying a land, or donation. And also we have some support from the national government, establishment of new subsidy systems. And after 50 years passed, this is showing the Mihama unit site. There were 3 units here, and 2 is already decommissioning phase, and 1 is operating now. And there are some energy education center near the nuclear power plant, also visitor center. So many people are coming here. And there is a fishing places. Mihama town is using subsidy for organizing or set up this building, and people are coming every year. And there's a beautiful beach around the nuclear power plant. So the merit, the economic impact is, one is subsidies for siting nuclear power plant, and strength of financial capability of municipalities with nuclear power plant, because of tax income, property tax, enterprise tax, and a lot of employee opportunities. As I mentioned, 10,000 people are working in Fukui Prefecture. And this is an example at Takahama town, siting 4 nuclear power plant. The population is only 10,000 people, but the revenue is $100 million, around 100. And half of the income is coming from related to nuclear power plant. And employment opportunities. This is a case in all nuclear power plant. There's a 4 units, and now 2 is operating, and 2 is the decommissioning phase. And they are hiring young people from the regional places. So normally young people want to go big city, Tokyo, Osaka, or other place after high school graduation. But they also have chance, have an opportunity to work in the regional area. So much contribution for the young generation's job opportunities. And economic effect, regular inspection of reactor are conducted every 13 months. This is a case in Japan. So almost every year there is a regular inspection, and it lasts 2 or 3 months. It means 2,000 or 3,000 workers coming to Fukui, and they drop money, and it contributes to the local economy. So I put some benefit, only saying benefit to economic impact, but we are now facing that we are so much depending on nuclear power plant. Now, some reactors are decommissioning phase, so we need to not decrease incomes or subsidies like that. So we are really facing a difficult moment now. And Fukushima accident. Maybe some of you already know. This is a basic information. Why the Fukushima accident happened? Very simple. Even after the control rod was inserted to the reactors, water is needed to cool the water almost a few days or one week. And it is need a pump to send the water to the reactor. But the pump is driven by electricity. So without electricity, water can't send it to the reactors. So this is very simple. And what happened after earthquake? After earthquake, the plant was shut down without any problem. But after that, 40 minutes after, the tsunami is coming. And unfortunately, the power distribution panel was sited underground. So all the DC power supply was submerged. It means at the time, a lot of support from other electric power company. They send an electrical car to the Fukushima site, and more than 50 or 60 electric car was there. But because of the power distribution was submerged, the electricity can't connect and not send it to the pump. But in Fukushima, 6 reactors sited and 4 reactors shut down. 4 reactor was damaged, but unit 5 and 6 were survived because the diesel generator was several types. One is cooling emergency diesel generator. It's not depending on the cooling seawater pump. Even cooling seawater pump was damaged. This emergency generator was could survive, and also distribution panel were not underground. So that's why unit 5 and 6 was survived. And the situation in Fukushima Prefecture, I got many questions what the situation in Fukushima. So 12 years passed, and why the reconstruction is steadily progressing. About 33,000 people are still living as evacuees and outside the prefecture. And there are still many issues such as the decommissioning of power plant, measure to deal with the treated water, prolonged evacuation, and rebuilding the lives of victims. But the condition was changed. The average dose decreased by 80% from 2011 to 2020. And when you visit the Fukushima site, the restoration of the site is ongoing. And now you don't need to wear mask inside the Fukushima site. They are putting masks because those are to cope with the COVID-19. And still 3,000 people work every day. And this is some argument. Now we have a member from Korea. I'm not a politician, so I don't want to make argument. But in Japan, we are planning to release this treated water this year. And this is some PR that farming from the abalone, the fish using this treated water. So this is a live camera. You can see this through YouTube. So situation of agriculture and fishery industry. So all the rice bags or some living stocks product were surveyed and delivered to the many places. And this is my staff, my young staff. He went to Fukushima. He is very crazy about fishing. So he got a very nice fish and he eat it as sashimi. So enjoy the Fukushima product. So stakeholder involvement. Who is a stakeholder? this is I was in the OECD nuclear energy agency, so I got some document, and this is quite simple, specific interest. So stakeholder categories, such kind of media, universities, local community, business owner, employees, many stakeholders. So it depends on also the where you are now, which is your stage. So in Japan now, the plant is operational phase and decommissioning phase. So stakeholder is not same as when we are siting a nuclear power plant. I think Indonesia is you are now planning to site a nuclear power plant. So stakeholder is not same as in Japan. And this is also the IAEA document. One of the examples that local government is one of the stakeholders, and regulators and industries and stakeholders. Then we are in the stakeholders. And this is a questionnaire survey by research reactor in Japan. Research institute in Japan. Which organization do you trust as a source of information? So this is maybe kind of Japanese culture that we are highly much rely on the international nuclear organizations such as IAEA. And we every day we see TV news, so media. And nuclear expert and institution also, the rate is very high. But unfortunately, regulatory authority utility is not high because of the Fukushima Daiichi accident. This is the case in Japan. And what information enhances public confidence in nuclear power plant, nuclear power? So I put this red line. So the opinions of residents and third parties are reflected in the safety monitoring of nuclear power plant. I think this is a key that getting understanding of nuclear utilization of nuclear power plant. So dialogue and disclose information are key to build a public confidence. And it is also important to reflect opinions of stakeholders to the discussion or nuclear issues. And this is a difference in the perspective to see between public and expert. I'm a nuclear expert, but as a daily basis, I had many chance to have a dialogue with media. And today also, I had a discussion with anti-nuclear party more than 1 hour or 2 hours. I hated it, but I have to welcome them because my position is to listen to the such a people's opinion. But the viewpoint of utility and regulatory, I mean, the nuclear expert is much focusing on set of standards or goals like safety standards, PRA or PSR, like that. But the viewpoint of public is very simple. They are very worried about when the accident happens. Where should I evacuate when the accident happens, like that? So it is important to recognize the gap between the residents and the nuclear expert. So this is my division's activity that local government approach. So every year we have around 20 to 30 minor events at the nuclear power plant. For example, workers injury or some piping, outside piping. It's not related to safety was damaged like that. Even that case, we disclose information and through the press conference. And we carry that plant walk down and nuclear emergency drills every year. And today I also had I didn't like it, but responding to a anti-nuclear party. And this is the last month's news. The neutron detector have triggered an automatic shutdown at Unit 4 of Kansai Electric Power Company's Takahama Unit 4. And I hold this press conference, and this live press conference were delivered to all Japan through the media. So this is me that what I was saying is now investigation is ongoing, but the plant is safely shut down. Sorry, I put only Japanese here. And the stakeholder categories, this is the case in Fukui. We can divide to 3 parts: political, economic, and social, technical. For example, Fukui, we have a prefecture government and city office, also prefecture assembly. And regarding social part, nuclear environment safety management council. I will explain it later, and local media. And we have a Fukui Nuclear Safety Committee. The first one, I strongly make comment that this kind of council we set up before plant siting. What is important factor is as a regular session, we report the investigation. We report the environment radiation monitoring. So you can compare before plant site and after plant siting the changes for environment radiation. Actually, environment radiation will not change, but it is important to set up this kind of council before plant siting, before plant operating. And members are very unique, not only nuclear expert, agriculture cooperative, labor unions, or young men's association, women's group association. So we organize this meeting every quarterly. And also the observer is coming to join meeting, plant operator, regulatory authority, and national government. And this is a Fukui Nuclear Safety Expert Committee, which consists of 13 experts from a university expert. Their major is nuclear engineering, seismic engineering, safety management, or social psychology, and other field. So every time we organize this meeting, media coming to see it, and next day the newspaper or media shows the result of this meeting. So this is through that media, the people or resident people know what kind of discussion is ongoing and what is the issue of consideration, like that. And public relation, we have a science museum. We don't say nuclear museum, no one came, because so that's why we say science museum. And we also issue the science magazine and distribute to the all residence area near nuclear power plant. So 100,000 copies to all the household where nuclear power plant locates and neighborhood municipalities. So our position is like a kind of interpreter for both regulatory authority and plant operator, because regulatory authority or plant operator, they sometimes use very difficult term, not the English term, the nuclear difficult term. So we have some kind of need to interrupt or translate it to the resident with a more understandable words. So maybe I can skip this radiation monitoring. I wanted to say the importance of radiation monitoring. Even not within Indonesia, we are now even some accident or events occurs other countries, we can detect it through the monitoring. So summary, so before Fukushima accident, the tailwind is coming. So nuclear is a part of society, but after Fukushima accident, so nuclear is out of society. At the time, I searched some book title at Amazon.com. When you see the title is A Society Independent of Nuclear Power, Separation the Nuclear Power Plant from the Society, or Electricity is Enough Even Without Nuclear Power Plant, or Graduation from Nuclear, such title was on the Amazon site right after Fukushima accident. But 10 years after the accident, nuclear is coming back to the society. And as I mentioned, especially from last year, Russian invasion to Ukraine, the electricity bill increased. And now public mind is changing, more welcome nuclear. But at the beginning, as I said, beyond 40 years operation is a kind of some issue still remaining. Because the public say that when the nuclear power plant was built 50 years or 60 years ago, the plant operator or national government says the lifetime of the nuclear power plant is 30 to 40 years. Why they extend their life? This is a kind of their opinion. And politics, whether long-term operation is possible or not, depending on political decisions. So this is recently I'm interested in the ChatGPT. I make a question to ChatGPT. What do you think about nuclear power plant is safe? The answer is very general things that the last part, government and nuclear operator, power plant operator also required to provide transparency, proper information disclosure, community outreach to ensure public understanding and trust. Very good answer. And last part, why Fukushima accident happened? Because of carelessness, overconfidence, and lack of imagination as a Tokyo Electric Power Company. Because even we had to learn from outside Japan. For example, that at the Sumatra earthquake, at the time of tsunami coming to hit the Indian nuclear power plant in India, and the seawater pump was submerged. And also 1999, there was some flooding at the French nuclear power plant. So they cope with such flooding. They put a watertight door like that. But we didn't listen such a word from the outside Japan. So we need to continue improvement of safety. So thank you. I want to question. So this is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yamamoto. It's very impressive presentation. I think a lot of participants would like to have questions about the effort of the Japanese or the nuclear community to convince to the public. Maybe it takes more than 1 decade, and you saw us the impressive activities on how to rebuild the trust to the nuclear agency, to the government, and so on. So please stay with us, Dr. Yamamoto, because I have to change the speaker to Mr. Seong Lee. He is from KEPCO, the office of Jakarta. So it is also interesting to know about the KEPCO activity, because during the time when I was work in Batam, now the Batam is no longer exists. We know well, we communicate with KSNP. KSNP, I think the subsidiary of KEPCO. But before that, I would like to show to the public, to the audience, about the CV of Mr. Seong Lee. He is the Chief Representative of KEPCO Southeast Asia Office. He is in Jakarta at the moment. His education is, well, not engineer, but I think you all know well about the business of the energy and other things. The education from the Korea University, Seoul, Bachelor of Public Administration, and his master's degrees on the Public Enterprise Policy. He has long experience in KEPCO with many positions, beginning as the Office of the President and CEO, and in 2021, General Manager, Global Business Development Department. So please, Mr. Lee, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you. Selamat sore. Salam kenal. Nama saya Seong Lee dari KEPCO, Korea Electric Power
You would
Corporation.
like to speak in Bahasa? It's good.
Sedikit.
Okay.
Saya sudah tinggal di Jakarta selama 1 tahun. Kantor saya di SDBD Jakarta Selatan. Ya, senang bertemu Anda. Saya ingin berbagi pikiran kami dengan Anda sekalian ya hari ini. Terima kasih. Now it's English. Well, as he introduced me, first of all, well, it's my honor to be here to present the topic regarding KEPCO, and thank you for your invitation. Well, my topic is not just about nuclear, it's regarding energy transition from utilities perspective. So it also includes nuclear part as well. Before beginning the topic, I would like to introduce KEPCO a little bit. KEPCO is a state-owned utility company in Korea, like PLN. And KEPCO is owning and operating 100% of transmission, distribution, and sales. For generation, KEPCO has 6 subsidiaries, including nuclear company KHNP, as he mentioned. And we are occupying around 60% of total capacity in Korea. And our nuclear power plant is around 24 gigawatt. So I will share the screen now. Yeah, can you see the screen?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Today I'd like to introduce 4 sectors that make up the value chain of future power industry and how nuclear energy will play in carbon neutrality era. So first, transport is about how to operate future grid stably and efficiently. Second, consumption is about demand response to improve energy efficiency in terms of consumption. Third, power generation is the key to carbon neutrality. So we will see how to implement energy transition to sustainable carbon-free source. And fourth and lastly, I will briefly talk about R&D for carbon neutrality. Okay. Now we are living in the age of chaos and uncertainty. Since the Paris Agreement was signed in 2015, carbon reduction has been a priority for the energy industry. Well, however, before the energy transition was on the right track, we faced supply chain disruption due to COVID outbreak. In addition, Russia and Ukraine war is returning the energy industry to the days of nationalism. If you look at the table below, investment in fossil fuel continues to decline, while the share of solar and wind is rapidly increasing. International fuel price hit bottom line due to oversupply during pandemic, but price skyrocketed after the war. Although it's difficult to predict future fuel price, many people believe that cheap and stable energy is no longer possible. So interest in nuclear is increasing again. So after all, the energy industry faces the dilemma of carbon neutrality and energy security. We must achieve carbon neutrality. This is not a national task, but a global task. And disregarding this carbon neutrality will not only result in criticism, but also disadvantages in export and investment. At the same time, on a national level, we have to achieve energy security. After COVID and war, many countries are closing the doors, and providing stable energy supply is challenging. Well, fortunately, Indonesia has a lot of resources, so I don't think this will be a problem in here, but it's a big problem in Korea. So now let's take a look at how the energy industry in the carbon neutral era is different from the past. In the past, stable fossil fuel supply was the most important value for energy security. But in carbon neutral era, it's much more complicated. In addition to the fuel supply, the perspective of resource adequacy, flexibility, efficiency, and acceptance are all required. Resource adequacy is a matter of which energy source and how to use it. Flexibility is about how to deal with intermittence of renewable energy. Efficiency is trying to minimize investment under this complex configuration, and acceptability is how to convince people for new construction of power facility. To look closely at this extended value matrix, in generation sector, balanced decarbonization energy mix and utilization of flexible resources such as SMR are key issues. In transport, grid system, facilities to enhance system flexibility such as ESS and optimal grid construction are important points. In consumption, the key is to improve energy efficiency and utilize demand as a resource through demand response. So let's look at each sector. First is transport. Power grid serves as a backbone of carbon neutrality. So when people think of carbon neutrality, usually they focus on generation resource first, but the role of grid is very important. And we need to upgrade power grid, which requires huge investment. I don't know if you remember the philosopher Thomas Hobbes, who wrote Leviathan. He spoke of the concept of war of all against all. The situation of future power grid with expanded renewable energy is similar. Generation will consist of many distributed renewable sources and also have intermittency. And climate disasters are also growing in scale. So how should we respond in this situation? we need to strengthen system stability, invest more efficiently in power grid, and ensure grid resiliency as well as grid acceptance. Well, the first thing regarding grid is to reinforce system stability. As we know, renewable energy output is fluctuating. For example, solar power is different during day and night, and wind speed changes frequently. So, however, the capacity of grid cannot be increased or decreased. Therefore, power grids need to be smarter than before to respond to variability of renewable energy output. So it is necessary to advance the prediction of renewable energy. And we should install ESS so that grid can be more flexible. And for operation of these systems, of course, a power ICT platforms and technologies are required. In Korea, KEPCO started such research and investment already, but we still have a long way to go. Next is efficiency of investment in power grid. Well, government, companies, and all of us are short of money. KEPCO and PLN are the same, so we need to find a way to reduce investment in grid construction. And NWA, non-wires alternative, stand for such solutions. In this way, we can maximize the use of existing grid and minimize the demand for new construction. In terms of hardware, we need to install additional facilities like reactive power facilities and flow control facilities. In terms of software, we need to upgrade systems like transmission algorithm and operate virtual power plant, which can aggregate resources. The policy part will be covered from consumption section. But while this method may reduce investment a little bit, when demand continuously increases, well, eventually we have to build more power grid. So the next task is about how to build new power grid if demand increases continuously. Well, I think it will be difficult to construct transmission line in Indonesia. And where in Korea, it is really difficult to construct a new transmission line because of resident protests. The people who use electricity are in the city. So why people who are living in the rural area should be supported for them? These issues are what they raise. So people who are against large-scale nuclear power also say the same point, one of the reasons for their opposition. This point is correct, but in fact, renewables are no different. Taking solar as an example, large-scale solar farms have been located in rural areas because solar farms require large and cheap land. To transport this electricity from site to the demand area, it became necessary to construct new grid. So large-scale nuclear and renewable farm is the same. People say that the advantage of renewable energy is distributed power, but the reality is not like so. So in Korea, we are planning to match demand and supply by inducing proper renewable site in advance. And the location of this site should be reviewed along with the plan of power grid. We will also improve the compensation system to increase residents' acceptance. Well, otherwise, even though we plan the grid, we cannot proceed the construction due to opposition. But still, this is very hard and not easy to construct. Next part is about distribution. In the past, the role of the distribution was simply to deliver electricity from grid to customers. However, if distributed generation is widespread, the role of distribution changes. A lot of renewable energy providers are connected to distribution grid rather than transmission, and two-way supply will increase in the future. As a result, operation of distribution become very complicated, and DSO, a distribution system operator, is required in the future. For the transition to DSO, legal and institutional preparation are required, and digital infrastructure needs to be upgraded for this. KEPCO is currently using distribution automation system called DAS, but it is upgrading to a next generation system called ADMS. ADMS can monitor and control these kind of distributed resource and renewable energy. Lastly, for the grid part, let's talk about system resilience. The word resilience may be unfamiliar for people who are not working in grid sector. If stability is about making grid operation without trouble, resilience is about how to restore the grid which already break down. It would be the best if we operate without major breakdown, but climate change is increasing threat of major outages. Blackout due to supply shortage can be prevented with good planning and management, but the damage caused by climate change cannot be avoided like weather. As a recent example, in Texas, USA, there was circular blackout due to record cold weather that caused energy supply failure. In California, power grids are forced to cut off due to large-scale wildfires. In case of Korea, fortunately, there haven't been no major outages due to disasters yet, but it is necessary to prepare in advance for system resilience because we haven't experienced those kind of situations. So once it happens, it could damage our whole network, which can be a big problem. Next part is consumption. In the past, consumption was regarded to be out of control. However, in the future, our task is to minimize and economize consumption in order to minimize the burden on generation sector and grid sector. Looking at the situation in Korea, demand continues to increase, and demand and supply are mismatched in time and space. So we need to think how to put together this puzzle. Indonesia is quite different because Java Island is suffering from oversupply. And I'm sorry about this because KEPCO also has power plant in here. So Indonesia task is may increase demand by increasing industry or for like increasing economy. But normally we need to reduce, demand to reduce our investment on the grid and the capacity. So when it comes to price, most importantly, in Korea, electricity is very cheap. So pricing is very sensitive issues and no customer wants expensive price. However, from an economic point of view and energy industry perspective, the price must be higher than the cost of production. When price is low, there is a real incentive to use it efficiently. So as a result, more energy is consumed, which is a big problem in Korea as we are importing all fuel from abroad. So to reduce consumption, first concept is EERS. EERS is a system that targets energy sellers like us to reduce their sales volume by a certain percentage every year. So when I first hear this system in the past, honestly, I did not understand. We are a seller, so why should we reduce our sales? However, now it is understandable because we are facing carbon neutrality and investment problems. Under the EERS systems, sellers try to reduce demand by giving incentive or penalty to customers. For example, we spread LED light or induce high efficiency equipment. So after all, this process improves energy efficiency. EERS is actively implemented in US and Korea is in initial stage now. In order to settle this system, we need support system and financial resource because somebody have to pay for EERS. The second is time shift of demand. So regarding the time of demand, so we need to build power plant capacity according to the peak load. So if demand is concentrated during peak hours, we need to build more capacity to meet peak load, which is inefficient. So also now it is very difficult to predict net load because of the variability of renewable power. Net load means base load minus renewable generation. So therefore, it is necessary to adjust demand flexibly and move demand time zone. For this, the most effective way is using price signals. So in Korea, high voltage customers use time-based tariff system. There are 3 time zone and rate: light load, medium load, and peak load. But we think this is not enough, so we are discussing new pricing plan to manage our demand. For example, peak pricing is pricing very high during peak hours to reduce peak load. For reference, in Korea, net peak load was around 2 p.m. in the past, but recently it is after 5 p.m. because of solar PV generation. The rebate pricing works opposite way. So when we want to reduce during peak, when we want to reduce increase demand, when supply exceeds demand, we can utilize rebate pricing. So these kind of tariff we see discussing, we had not been implemented yet. Well, if previous page is about the time, this task is about the place of demand. The more demand and supply are mismatched, the more construction is needed. So therefore, it is desirable to regionally scatter demand or move it to a location near power plant. Well, Korea, for example, the new data centers are increasing, and most of them are located in the capital area, like Jabodetabek in Korea. In the capital area, grid is already full, and it is extremely difficult to construct a new one. However, well, from a data center point of view, there is no incentive or reason to build data center in rural area near power plant. So in order to give price signal, well, changing grid usage tariff according to the grid distance is needed. This system is already implemented in countries which have developed electricity market. However, since Korea has uniform price policy, like Indonesia, so it will take more time to introduce this policy because people might might be against regarding this kind of new tariff system. The last task in the consumption part is to minimize wasted energy by utilizing P2X. P2X refers power to heat, power to gas, power to hydrogen, and etc. Renewable energy can generate surplus power, and if it cannot be received from grid, curtailment, which means cutting off renewable power, is required. This is already happening in Jeju Island, Korea, because during daytime, the grid cannot receive all solar and wind power, so we need to cut off some of them. So KEPCO is implementing a demonstration project to utilize surplus electricity as hydrogen. The problem is how to secure economic feasibility since it requires a lot of capital investment. However, as energy prices become more expensive, the convergence between these energy resources will become more active and practical. So here is generation section, which is most important for energy transition. Well, Korea's carbon neutrality target is 2050 and Indonesia is 2060. To be carbon neutral, we have to stop coal power plant, and we all know it's very difficult. So for decarbonization, we should adopt new power resources and technologies. Also, existing power plant to be upgraded, and supply chain for related resources like hydrogen must be secured. The path to achieve this goal will be different from the countries. So in case of Korea, long-term power supply plan like IUPTL was released recently, and the proportion of nuclear increased. Nuclear power is important in Korea because our land is small and we have no resources. I understand that Indonesia plans to introduce nuclear power in the late 2030s, and I think nuclear power will help Indonesia's carbon neutrality. So regarding the power generation, first challenge is to expand renewable energy. Well, as I said, Korea does not have enough land. So renewable energy in the future is solar energy using new technologies. For example, solar module attached to the glass wall of the buildings, which is transparent. We are also planning to install large offshore wind farm. So because we are lack of land, we are trying to escape from the land. And Indonesia has a lot of hydro and geothermal resources, fortunately, but solar power is currently underutilized compared to its potential. Well, however, I think it can be expanded if there is a policy support and willingness. And second agenda is CCUS. Renewable energy is limited in location. Therefore, plans to utilize existing thermal power are also required. CCUS technologies is still very expensive, but economics will be improved in the future. In Korea, 10 megawatt carbon capture facility is currently installed and commercialized. In the future, we plan to design 150 megawatt class, and the captured carbon will be utilized or stored in a gas field. Since Indonesia has a lot of gas field, some coal power plant will be able to utilize CCUS technologies as you planned with gas field in here. The third is hydrogen and ammonia. Hydrogen and ammonia are the most promising carbon-free power sources. Ammonia can be co-fired in coal power plant, and hydrogen can be used in gas turbine. KEPCO is currently testing ammonia co-firing. We expect that up to 20% will be co-fired without major changes or difficulty in plant. But for 100% fire, facility reinforcement and research will be required. Well, Korea has to import hydrogen and ammonia, and for this, we are planning overseas investment to secure resources. Hydrogen is colored depending on how it is made. So for carbon neutrality, only green and blue hydrogen are meaningful. Hydrogen produced by nuclear power is called pink hydrogen. And if pink hydrogen is recognized as clean energy globally, it will be a new opportunity for nuclear power. Next is a way to operate thermal and nuclear power flexibly. As I mentioned many times, a lot of problems are caused by variability and intermittence of renewable output. So when renewable output increasing during low light load, sometimes nuclear power have to reduce output. If you look at the table below on the left side, it is an example of that case. During holidays, when the load is very low in Korea, nuclear power had to reduce output even though it is a base load, because that load is under demand. Existing large-scale nuclear powers take time to change output, and it is not flexible enough. But SMR, the future nuclear power, is very easy to change output, so even better than other flexible power resources. So therefore, SMR can be combined with renewable energy in a good way. The last task in the power generation sector is the stability of resource supply. Not only fuel, but also mineral resources and core part supply is needed for renewable facilities. However, these resources are also concentrated in specific countries or regions, mainly in China. So Korea and Indonesia are in opposite positions. Since Korea has to import both fuel and minerals, we need strategies to secure stable supply chain, while Indonesia can benefit those kind of resources, and it can be a new opportunity for Indonesia. R&D is also important for carbon neutrality. We will briefly see. We already talked about core technology of power industry value chain. The issue is trend of R&D because it's also different from the past. In the past, we focused on the few and big technologies. So it was easy to collaborate with partners, and it was possible to achieve great results. In the case of Korea, development of APR 1400 nuclear reactor model and 1000 megawatt ultra supercritical coal-fired power plant are representative examples. This case will be explained later. However, carbon neutral technology has complicated value chain. So there are many fields to study and many participants. Also, it is difficult to know when the technologies will be realized and when the market will open. So therefore, while securing core technologies, an integrated approach is required to reduce investment risk and to prefer an investment in R&D properly. So let's take a look at the example of APR 1400, which is a successful case in Korea. Korea's previous nuclear reactor was 1000 megawatt and was developed based on Westinghouse's model. But Korea wanted to develop a next generation nuclear reactor that secured safety and economic feasibility. And also, we wanted to become independent in technology. This project was carried out for 10 years, and the project cost was about 2005 billion rupee. It was a large-scale project in which the government, companies, university, and research institute all participated. Fortunately, with the success of this project, APR 1400 is currently in operation in Korea, and 4 units have been exported to UAE. Recently, UAE Barakah Unit 3 started commercial operation. And I hope APR 1400 will be operated in Indonesia someday. Lastly, I'd like to explain the R&D strategy. Since there are many required research fields and it is difficult, so KEPCO is planning and conducting R&D cooperation with various domestic and foreign partners. Through this, we want to maximize R&D synergies and shorten the R&D period. This is the end of my presentation. Since I have to cover a lot of sectors in power industry, please understand that I cannot explain in detail. So thank you for listening. If you have any question, I would be happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. It's very impressive one because this is very energy transition is very challenging, and maybe the roadmap is very complicated. Anyway, I would like to ask again Dr. Yamamoto to join this discussion. First, there are some questions in the chat room, but I would like first to ask you, to each of you, one questions to Dr. Yamamoto about you have 33 operable NPP at the moment, isn't it? And now 10 in operation, maybe in the near future 4. How about the rest? Is there any do you optimistic about the rest of the operable reactor will be also in operation soon? And for Mr. Lee, some of us in Indonesia, they are in a dilemma when we talk about the energy transition, about the carbon-free energy, we still considering, is it, well, some people say, maybe it will disrupt our economic growth as a developing country. We're still depending on coal and import oil also. How about the situation in your country? How is your business in Indonesia about this energy transition? But please first to Dr. Yamamoto.
Okay, thank you for the question. As I mentioned, now 10 reactor is regime operation, and another 4 reactor will be back to the normal, maybe by next year. So I'm sure the 14 nuclear power plant will be operating in next year. But others, this is my personal opinion, that it takes another 3 or 4 years. This is my So it's really tough. Electrical power company spending tough moment because NRA is assessing not only the seismic upgrade or like that. They are still assessing the investigation in the boring data at near the nuclear power plant. It's like almost installing a new reactor on the site. So they are assessing from the beginning. Once it passes, it takes not so far. But so my answer is only 14 nuclear power plant will be regime operation in next year.
Okay, but I also always read the data that you have 2 nuclear power plants under construction. How's the status right now?
It's difficult to answer the question. Yeah, actually, 2 nuclear power plant is planning in Japan at the Tsuruga site. But,
in planning, not under construction.
As I showing on the map, 2 nuclear plant is planning, but it is necessarily more modern type. I mean, the lesson learned from Fukushima accident design should be changed. Advanced PWR, or now the Mitsubishi is planning to have a design concept. It is called SRZ to 1200, like that.
Okay, thank you,
Yeah.
Dr. Yamamoto. My question to Mr. Lee about this kind of dilemma, maybe not only in Indonesia, but some other countries also, between the economic growth and the challenge about climate change, the carbon-free energy, and other things. How about your opinion on that?
Well, the cost of energy transition, it's not just economics. It's very political issues, as you know. It's very hard to answer. So, well, I'll just speak my view, not Korea or KEPCO's view. It's my view.
Sure.
So, you know, in Europe, well, they are paying high price for the energy. For example, in Germany, I think the price for electricity is like more than 20 cents or 30 cents per kilowatt hour, which is very expensive. So for the energy transition, I believe we need like social agreement. So what kind of energy mix will we use? And then how much will we pay? So, but the opinion would be all different from the people, and then from the party, and then from the industry. So the situation in Korea, we are still paying low tariff for electricity. So KEPCO is in deficit. we are in the red. So yeah, that's a big problem in Korea nowadays. But increasing tariff is right, point of view of economics, as I mentioned, but it's political issues. So, and for the speed and the direction of energy transition, we need social agreement. So in case of Indonesia, so many people are working in coal field, and then if Indonesia quit coal, the electricity price should be higher than now. And then some people say that it's unfair because Indonesia is still developing country, and then developed country already took advantage of those kind of cheap price of energy fuel price. So that's why there are nowadays some programs regarding to have those kind of program. I mean, recently Indonesia and USA agreed to make a fund for that. The energy for just I don't know, I don't remember the exact name of the program. So I think those kind of international agreement will also help the situation. And then regarding the speed of energy transition in Indonesia, well, it's like a dilemma, as you said. So there might be some social agreement between people. Yeah.
Okay.
That's my view on this.
Well, it's very difficult for us. But before Dr. Triwayuadi is already raised hand, I would like to ask Dr. Joko Hari Nugroho to give the question, because he's coming from the Bapeten, from the National Regulatory Agency. He has some question for both of you. Please, Pak Joko Hari.
Thank you, Pak Jarod, for the opportunity. My name is Joko Hari Nugroho. I'm working for the Nuclear Energy Regulatory Agency of Indonesia. Thank you for your presentation, Ms. Dr. Yamamoto. I'm very impressed for your explanation about the condition in Japan up to now. I would like to ask about how you in Japan maintain the electricity price comes from nuclear power plant still competitive, even though you should carry on the stress test requirement and also build seawall. Yeah, after Fukushima accident, it is very, very interesting for us, because we know that if you carry out the stress test and also build the seawall, the price is so high. I'm graduated from the Tohoku University in Sendai, and I live in Sendai for 5 years. It means that I know about the price in Japan. I'm interested for that. And the second one is I would like also to know about the public acceptance before and after Fukushima accident. I left from Sendai in 2001, and it means that I don't know about the Fukushima accident. Domo arigato.
Okay. So your question is also in the chat box. Same question.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
First, okay. The first from the easy one. The public side before Fukushima accident very supportive. Just before the year 2010, 77% were supportive to the nuclear power plant. But after Fukushima accident, almost half. This is a before and after Fukushima accident. This is one of the answer to your question. But the other one, it's very tough question. The electrical city price. Actually, to meet the condition new regulatory standard, it costs a lot. For example, one unit average around maybe $2 or $3 billion for each unit. Very big. It costs a lot. So as I mentioned, some company abandoned to continue the operation of the nuclear power plant, so that in the decommissioning phase. So, but still, nuclear is competitive. And regarding price, it's very complicated. I can show you Japanese some figure, but simply to say, the nuclear power plant, the condition is basic condition is 40 years operation, and the capacity is around 70% operation, and the cost is around 11 yen per kilowatt hour, and it is almost same as I could say now 2020. It's less than the thermal power or LNG, but almost near to the LNG. Very competitive. And it takes very difficult to explain, because the cost includes also compensation fee in the case of the accident, and also maintenance fee or like that. So estimation cost is calculation is very difficult. But simply to say, the answer is still competitive. Even actually they put more than $2 billion for the seismic upgrade or seawall, even still competitive. But it costs a lot.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hari, do you have? I think you have other questions.
It's enough. It's enough, Pak Jarod. It's enough.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
My question to Mr. Lee, before this, the current president, the previous president is rather, well, I can say the South Korean president is anti-nuclear or relatively resistant to nuclear. How about the situation at the moment? This is just for intermezzo, maybe.
Well, that's another political issue. So, well, as you might know, our previous government was not so supportive for nuclear power plant, but now after the new presidency has come last year, well, nuclear power become more important now because also after the war between Russia and Ukraine, well, many people found out that there is no other way or option. So Korea is emphasizing nuclear power nowadays. So fortunately, we don't have serious issues regarding the acceptance of a nuclear power plant. Of course, building a new power plant is a different thing, but operating existing one is okay for us, I think.
Okay, thank you. And there is one person, Dr. Tri Wahyuadi, would like to ask some questions. Please, Pak Tri Wahyuadi.
안녕하세요. 내 이름 아디프입니다. 반갑습니다. Mr. Lee is my old friend. Okay, Mr. Lee, actually, we produce nuclear power plant for KEPCO until 1.3 gigawatt per unit, especially in Middle East, and also all nuclear power plant in Korea built by our company. And actually, at the moment, we are under discussing or self-executing with Philippine Asian countries. So maybe Philippines more better than Indonesia. We have a small modular reactor and also all technology, including PWR and APR also. We have all technology and very, very safe in the world. LCOA in Indonesia, for the cheaper LCOA is from coal fire power plant. The range around 5.5 cents per kilowatts until 6 cents per kilowatts. And nuclear power plant is very competitive. Why? Because nuclear power plant around 5.5 cents per kilowatt hours. So this one apple to apple. And this price can reduce more cheaper because Indonesia have a lot of nuclear source, uranium source from West Kalimantan, Mamuju, Muria, also Merapi. Salam Pat Manaba, Pak Jarod.
Nice. Yes.
And actually, we only waiting one decision from KEPCO because we always behind KEPCO. If KEPCO in front of, they will build nuclear or will invest nuclear in Indonesia. So I will behind you. The problem if you not declare maybe KEPCO not business in nuclear in Indonesia, maybe I will move to Philippines because in Philippines we almost finalized with government at there, and nuclear power plant is G2G, and nuclear power plant is very safe, including small modular reactor. Our technology is different with other. New skill US actually has accredited by Doosan, and reactor come from Doosan. And Torcon, even Torcon maybe will develop several years next. The reactor also will be built in Changwon, Doosan. So we have technology, just waiting who is the investor as a partner of government, even maybe from Berin or from PLN or Pertamina. We waiting from development. Actually, we just waiting from the KEPCO who will lead as a consortium in front of, and we will support for nuclear technology in Indonesia. Even local content, no problem, because we have experience with Javan and N10, 2000 megawatt. We also can comply local content until 40%. Thank you.
Please. Yeah, but Dr. Tiwahyuadi knows about many things. I think. Please, if you have any answers, response.
Okay. Well, thank you, Dr. Tiwahyuadi. And well, actually, TEPCO and Korea would like to export nuclear power plant in Indonesia and also other countries as well. And I don't think it's a matter of us because, exporting nuclear power plant is just not a business because, nuclear power plant is kind of national project. So, well, to adopt a nuclear power plant in Indonesia, I think the most important thing is the will of Indonesian people and Indonesian government. Well, otherwise, even though we are doing business for nuclear, well, I don't think we can penetrate the market. How can I say that? The agreement of the people and then the willingness of the government should come first. Yeah, that's my opinion. Yeah. Anyway, thank you. I would like to cooperate with you, of course. Yeah.
Sorry, I forgot one thing.
Yeah.
Rosneft, Rosatom, not including in the blacklist of company from Russia. That's why we still can cooperate with Rosneft and Rosatom. Why? Because a lot of nuclear power plant in the world, especially fourth generation, they need some uranium from Rosatom. That's why at the moment Rosatom not in the list blacklist by US or by something. So actually we still can bring ECA from OECD, especially from Korea. I'm still optimistic about this.
Okay, this is very sensitive issue when we talk about Russia, I think. Okay. Anyway, thank you very much, Pak Dr. Tiwahyuadi. Terima kasih, Pak.
Sami-sami, Pak.
Terima kasih, Pak.
Ya. Salam Patmanata.
Yeah. Then next, I would like to ask Dr. Ari Nugroho from BRIN, from my organization. Please start your video and please unmute yourself. You have several questions to both speakers, please.
Thank you, Dr. Jadab. Yeah, actually, it's not several questions, it's only 2 questions for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your interesting presentation for Dr. Yamamoto and Dr. Lee. I would like to ask a question for Dr. Yamamoto first. In one of your slides, you explained about the stakeholders, and I would like to know, in Japan, which one is more powerful to make decision to build the first nuclear power plant? Is it the local government or the central government?
Oh.
Yeah, because in Indonesia, all the decision I think is taken from the president, not for the stakeholders in the local government. And to Dr. Lee, I'd like to ask a question about in the peak load time, does ERIs or energy efficiency resource standards apply to all customers, including household and industry? Thank you very much.
Please, first, Dr. Yamamoto,
Okay.
about the central government or the local government.
Yeah, this is a really tough question, but interesting question. Actually, I was not born 50 years, 60 years ago, but I read the book and I heard from my supervisor that why so many nuclear power plants in Fukui. At the time, actually, national government has strong message to the local people. Because at the time in 1960, the Japan is raising economic growth, and national government wants to have another energy resources. Only is a natural, for example, the hydrogen or thermal power. It's not enough. So national government had, especially at the time, a prime minister also had a strong power to install a nuclear power plant in Japan. And also from our local government point of view, as I mentioned, Fukui is very rural area. The people are not, and job is only agriculture or fishery work. So, and especially resident people near the plant site, as I mentioned, want to have a road, bridge, infrastructure. So the both meets a good combination at the time. unlike at the moment. So 60
Okay.
years ago, both sides. The answer is both sides. But the
I think
first
his
message
question
is
is
coming
very-
from national government.
Okay, because his question is, when we talk about nuclear energy in Indonesia, it will be decided by the president, not the local government or others, isn't it, Pak Ari Nugroho? Yeah.
Yeah, in the case of the Fukui area, you have a joke that there is more monkey live in the
And deer.
Yeah, dear. Yeah.
The decision is quite different for that area, I think so. Thank you very
Please,
much.
Mr. Lee, if you have any answer about the ERS.
Oh, I couldn't hear clearly because the volume was a little bit low. I'm sorry. So could you? It was regarding the peak tariff, right? So could you specify your
Pak,
question?
diulang
I'm
aja,
sorry.
Pak. Kurang keras.
Yeah, okay, let me make simple in my question, because in the peak load, there is a difference between the household or the industry, because the industry, the peak load is not, should be fluctuated, it should be stable. And if they decrease the consumption of the electricity, and then the production will also decrease. And it is the different story from the household, because the household electricity consumption can be fluctuated time after time. That's my question actually.
Okay. So I think it depends. It's not just a matter of household or industry, because industry is also different. Well, electricity usage pattern of industry is different. So some industry use stable demand, like 24 hours, like smelters. But some industry can adjust their demand. So for the demand response, the incentive for the tariff become bigger to those kind of big customers. So they can utilize the tariff. So that's really happening in Korea already. So for those industry who can adjust, well, their usage, they control their load to utilize the cheap price. So there is a demand response from there. Of course, for some industry it's impossible, as you mentioned. And for household, well, honestly, until now, the demand response is low because electricity tariff is not so expensive. So once electricity tariff is realized, like European country in German, well, maybe the demand response will be active more than now, but until now, it's not so active. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ali, for your information. Back to
Terima
you.
kasih Pak Ari Nugroho. And there is another questions from Pak Agus Arianto. I think he is coming also from Brit. Please, Pak, unmute yourself. Okay.
Thank you, Yamamoto-san and Mr. Lee, for your both presentation. My first question is for Yamamoto-san. One is, what are the future plans for the area around the Fukushima Daiichi? As we know, since last year, some local people already sent back to that area. And the second one is, what the future plan for the Fukushima Daiichi, the power plant site? It will build a new NPP in the desert, or you have another plan? And for the Mr. Lee, as we know, the South Korea is entrusted with leading more than $20 million to contract the NPP in United Arab Emirates. I think it's not a big deal for the Emirates, but for the for the developing country like us, like Indonesia, you have some program for the new country who want to develop nuclear power plant. Thank you.
Okay. Terima kasih Pak Agus. Please, Dr. Yamamoto.
Okay, for your first question regarding the Fukushima site, the answer is that now the TEPCO, the electric power company, is concentrating on the investigation of what's the status of after the severe accident. So they are trying to take some debris inside the core. So it takes another not only 10 years, but 20 years, 30 years for the decommissioning phase to continue. So my understanding is that the Fukushima site, such a work continue. And around the Fukushima site, almost all the people evacuation outside the Fukushima prefecture, and they getting old, they come back to the Fukushima, but some of them say that we are so old, not have power to coming back to Fukushima. So around the Fukushima site, I think the situation will not change. But talking about the entire Fukushima prefecture, the Fukushima prefecture, I think they don't want to nuclear power plant anymore. This is only the case in the Fukushima prefecture. I'm sure because of the Fukushima, not only Fukushima Daiichi, another Daini, which owns 4 nuclear power plants in Fukushima, they are not damaged, not a severe accident. Even they are young, even though the company forced to decide the decommissioning because of the Fukushima prefecture or Fukushima people doesn't want to nuclear power plant anymore. So that is a decommissioning phase ongoing in not only Daiichi, Daini. So 10 nuclear power plant in Fukushima prefecture. So in the future, no nuclear power plant anymore. That's my answer.
Okay. This Mr. Lee.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Agus. As you mentioned, we need a lot of investment to build a new nuclear power plant. Well, in UAE Baraka case, the total project cost was about $20 billion for 4 units, 506 megawatt, 5,600 megawatt. Well, so it's a huge investment, but well, Korea also shared the investment as well. So we are utilizing project financing to build a nuclear power plant. So investment from Korea and United Arab Emirates participated as a sponsor side, and also for the debt side, there were many lenders from UAE and from Korea. Credit Export Agency also participated from Korea, and then there are also international bank. So if we are constructing a new power plant in other countries, like developing country, well, the project scheme would be the same, but there might be a little bit differences because, well, if that country cannot support financially, well, it could be a little bit different. However, well, if project size is not like that big, well, we can still afford it by project financing from international bank and also from Korean Credit Export Agency. So there wouldn't be a problem, I guess.
Okay.
Of course, Indonesia, if we build nuclear power plant in Indonesia, from Indonesia side, there also should be some investment as well. But it depends on the site. Yeah.
Okay. Masih ada pertanyaan, Pak Agus?
I think that's enough, Prof. Jarod.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr.
Terima kasih.
Lee and
Thank you.
Yamamoto-san.
Thank you. This is maybe the last question from me. First, for Dr. Yamamoto. Your country will release the treated water from the Fukushima to the sea that some neighboring countries like China, South Korea, they complain about the safety. I think it's more difficult to convince the neighboring countries rather to domestic public. What do you think? How to convince? Well, this is a political issue, but sometimes we also asked by the other countries. What your Indonesian opinion? What is the Indonesian comment about that? How about your opinion on that, Dr. Yamamoto? And the question to Mr. Lee about the hydrogen production. the capacity at the moment in South Korea on the hydrogen production, how much in numbers, well, in rough numbers, because some people say, well, our future is depend on hydrogen production and something like that, but some people well, very pessimistic on that. Do you think that, this is my another question, nuclear energy can play a role on the hydrogen productions? Okay, please, Dr. Yamamoto.
That's a really tough question because it's totally related to political issues. At first, I have to convince Yon Lee-san. So actually, we don't want to make problem with the neighborhood countries from the Republic of Korea or China. But actually, from the scientific point of view, the treated water level of the radiation is quite low. And regarding actually, it includes tritium, but it's not directly affect to the human body or some physical problem. So the answer is, actually, it took a long time to convince the people living in Fukushima Prefecture, especially the who is dealing with taking a fish from the sea. So, but now it's a time. We are not anymore the storage tank anymore. So it's a time to decide by the national government. So please understand our effort. And actually, TEPCO is, I put the information in the presentation, my material, the link of the how the treated water, the status of treated water and safety of the evaluation of it. So please read it and please understand. This is my answer. I'm not politician.
Okay, thank you. Sure, we understand the situation. Thank you. Please, Mr. Lee, about the hydrogen production. Sometimes, like, well, this is our future. Sometimes, oh, it's very difficult. Or how about the role of nuclear power on the hydrogen production?
Well, the price of cost of hydrogen, we call it LCOH, levelized cost of hydrogen, depends on the price of electricity, which is generated, and also price of electrolyzer. So we need cheap electricity, which has low LCOE, levelized cost of electricity, and also cheap electrolyzer. Well, when it comes to electrolyzer, the price is about, it's different from the type and manufacturer, but normally it's from $300 or $400 from to $1,000 per kilowatt. So it's pretty much the same as capex of power plant.
Okay.
So we can figure out it would be expensive now. And so as you mentioned, hydrogen is still expensive resources, but well, if fuel price, oil and gas and coal is expensive like this, well, relatively hydrogen price it become cheaper. So in the future, hydrogen can do a role because we need to reduce CO2 emission anyway. And then so for green hydrogen, our target is like currently it's more than maybe $8 per kilogram, but we are targeting to reduce under like 6 or 7. Yeah, in that case, well, it would have economics. And regarding the nuclear power plant, well, it hasn't been discussed much so far. I mean, the pink hydrogen, well, we need more discussion whether it would be regarded as a clean energy or not, like nuclear power.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. For the closing remarks, I would like both of you give us some kind of a short summary or something that give us the audience, the Indonesian audience, that very they are interested in nuclear energy. You can say anything that you want as a closing remarks. Please, Dr. Yamamoto first, and then Mr. Lee. Please, if you have any closing remarks, Dr. Yamamoto.
I'm very sorry. I was on mute. So thank you for taking a chance to make a presentation in front of all of you. Now the member is around 200. So in the future, please keep in touch with me, and I can provide any further information in the future, because a lot of discussion is ongoing in Japan. So please, if any chance in the future, I really want to visit Indonesia, Jakarta.
Please. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Lee.
Well, thanks again for inviting me in this valuable webinar. And then I'm not a nuclear guy, as you explained. However, well, KEPCO and myself also, we are interested in nuclear power in Indonesia. So I already met several people who are in charge of nuclear power in here, from research side, from policy side. So, well, I would like to have the opportunity to collaborate for nuclear from Korea and in Indonesia. Well, and thank you again, and let's keep in touch. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Yamato and Mr. Lee. You explained many things for us, so we can learn many things, although it's very complex when we talk about energy transition, or even about how to convince the public about nuclear energy. But anyway, well, we are optimistic in the near future, the government will decide that we will use nuclear energy in our country. Thank you very much again to both speakers. Thank you. Bapak Ibu sekalian, terima kasih atas atensinya selama 2 jam ini. Kita berdiskusi masalah energi transisi dengan Pak Lee dari KEPCO dan dengan Dr. Yamamoto terkait bagaimana upaya mereka meyakinkan masyarakat Jepang, dan ternyata berhasil. Saya katakan berhasil karena public opinion terakhir menunjukkan bahwasannya ada perubahan positif ke arah mereka setuju dengan pemanfaatan energi nuklir. Terima kasih Bapak Ibu sekalian, kita ketemu. We would like to see you again in the next Thursday. Terima kasih, kita ketemu hari Kamis untuk topik yang berbeda minggu depan. Terima kasih. Makasih Pak Arif, Pak Lee, Dr. Yamamoto, thank you very much.
Terima kasih.
Terima kasih, makasih.
Terima kasih Pak Jarot. Terima kasih.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Aga-san, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Makasih.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Assalamualaikum.